Hello there, fellow indexers, and thank you for being here to watch today's recording. It's Abel. I am the host of Indexer Office Hours, and I know that you're used to hearing my voice during IOH as the moderator, but I'm here today at the beginning of this recording to apologize for some technical issues we had today as we were recording IOH 86. My usual intro that I do at the beginning of every Indexer Office Hours was recorded but is inaudible at the moment due to those technical issues that I was referring to. And so once I wrap up this message here, you'll hear today's recording from Anna's repo watch onwards. Again, I want to apologize for the inconvenience caused today. We will aspire not to make this mistake again. And so with that out of the way, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Bye-bye.
The next release, so for execution layer clients, the only other release we have is Nethermind with the new release of 1.14.7. Note that this release is a no-sys chain issue hotfix, and it fixes an issue with high resource usage due to unnecessary block propagation on no-sys chain after network issues. So this is an important release. Before moving to consensus layer clients, I'd like to ask if anyone has tried this release, and I can already see Daniel is typing. Anyone has tried Nethermind? Okay, so Daniel from Artemis Cloud is saying, after 7 days of hell with Nethermind, we managed to build a proper trace DB. Marc-Andre is confirming that the new release is working. Oh, with that, I'll move on to the consensus layer client. So this week we have had 2 new releases. So one for Teku, so version 22.12.0. This is a very low urgency update. It's optional and it only includes dependent libraries. And then we have had a new release for Nimbus, also a low urgency release, but it does bring the first production ready version of Nimbus validator client. So what that means is that advanced users will be able to take advantage of features such as support for redundant beacon nodes, enhanced validator privacies, and distributor key stores. But it also means for existing users that they will be able to use the streamlined standalone beacon node setup as before. This is all we have this week for consensus layer clients. For the graph stack, so last week we introduced pre-release version of 0.29.0, and we've gone through, I've already listed all of the updates of that release, but just a quick recap, a lot of determinism fixes, some improvements to speed, subgraph pruning with Graphman, some new commands for Graphman, and a few other things. Now, this release was only released about 9 hours ago, so I'll still ask if anyone has tried it yet. So, question is, has anyone tried version 0.29.0 of the new graph node? Okay, I will take that as a no. And that is all I have for today for Repo Watch. Let me check the chat. So Daniel is asking if we should try assuming the new version of GraphNode on MIPS I don't see why not, but I see other people typing, so I'm just gonna wait for a better response.
Yeah, I wanted to say that a few days ago I discovered that Aragon has apparently a long-standing issue with non-Ethereum chains, where it's struggling to find new headers, uh, and therefore it cannot get past the phase two of downloading headers. There's a quite long GitHub thread about it that it's almost 2 months old. So it's definitely a long-standing issue, and there's not really a clear solution. Yeah, there are some recommendations to run some flags. There are some recommendations to do some unwinding of blocks. But so far, it looks like nobody really knows what is the proper way to tackle it. Given that our next chain is going to be Polygon, and that we are likely going to sync our archive nodes with Aragon, I think this might be an important thing to be aware of.
I agree that sounds like a big deal. Do you have a link to the issue so that the MIPS crew can take it and come up with a suggestion? Okay, thank you. Okay.
Just to confirm that while the issue in question specifically mentions BSC, I've seen the same behavior on some of my Polygon nodes. So yeah, it seems that it's also relevant for Polygon, despite what that it says BSC in the title.
Okay. Thank you for mentioning that. That's an important note. I will try to chase this and figure out what we can do about it. And okay, going back to the 0.29.0 for MIPS, Pedro is saying that the PR is still open and it will have nothing to do with the phases and scoring for the time being. So I guess wait for instructions from MIPS. That's all I had this week for Repo Watch. Handing over to Juan.
Hi everyone, I'm Juan and I'll be doing today's protocol. No, I'm joking. Juan is not here unfortunately, so I'll be doing today's protocol watch. As it relates to forum governance, we have a proposal and there seems to be a lot of support for it. So 𝗨𝗀𝗂𝗪 store dispute status on resolution. So support for Zach's support by Zach for this proposal. I misread that. And so if you want to read into that, go ahead and check it out in the Notion. I can see people are laughing at the the comments. Cool. Well, we also have the proposal to modify the protocol to make it easier to expand the data services provided by the network by abstracting the notion of subgraphs within protocol. And that is, of course, a world of data services. Also the same 𝗨. I think this is incorrect. One may have made a mistake there. But anyways, moving on. There is also some more information in relation to updating some of the protocol parameters due to the post-merge reduced block times. And so again, check it out. Not much information here beyond that. I will move swiftly on to forum research where, not to put you on the spot, Derek, but you posted the N1 to N solution post. And so I wonder if you can potentially speak to that in today's conversation. I don't want to put you on the spot, so feel free to turn it down if now's not a good time. But I just figured since you're here, you might be able to speak to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're
we've talked about the problem of n-1 to n before, how that affects curation and stuff like that. I was working with a subgraph that ran into some issues as they were going through their upgrade, and so it just kind of got me thinking on that topic. But basically, the concept would be having a way for subgraph developers to broadcast out to indexers that they have a new upgrade coming, and then having a message or a response system for indexers to say, hey, we have synced it, we're at the chain head, go ahead and publish your update. I believe Ariel made the suggestion that we implement something like this with GraphCast, just because it reduces the cost of messaging and all of that, which I'm super pro. So I'll be working with the GraphOps guys on figuring out what that looks like and how something like that would be integrated. But the ideal scene is that, subgraph developers can tell you, hey, we've got a new version coming. Here's the IPFS hash. You can opt in to start syncing it in some way, and then you can respond back saying, hey, we're at the chain head. We're ready when you are. So that's Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Derek, for hopping in there. That was a pretty comprehensive breakdown. So yeah, appreciate you. Cool. Well, swiftly moving on to contracts repository. There's a bunch of PRs here. I won't bore everyone by reading them all out, but they are in the agenda, and the agenda is linked in the chat. So please do check it out if you so desire. And then moving on to network subgraphs, the core network subgraph. So there's a new bridge-aware subgraph that's going to be deployed soon. So just so you're aware of that. And then as it relates to the analytics subgraph, no new updates there. And as it relates to the billing subgraph, the new Arbitrum billing subgraph is going to be deployed. So please do check that out very soon. There you have it. I hope I did Juan proud. I did his section. He'll be back next week, and he'll do a much better job than I will. So there we go. That's the update for Protocol Watch. Great. Now we move on into the open discussion section. And for that, we have the lovely Pedro in the house. Thank you so much for being here. He's going to give us some updates as it relates to the MIPS program. So without further ado, Pedro, feel free to take the stage.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, 𝗟𝗶𝗀. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're a bit quiet, but we can hear you.
A bit quiet. Okay, I'll try to speak closer to the mic. So
better,
I'll just
thanks.
verbally share. Okay, cool. I'll just verbally share some updates on MIPS. I think everything has been already shared in the MIPS announcement channel, but there are some new stuff. So on the leaderboard, we did take some time during this last couple of days to go through some missing entries. So thank you all for adding your address and emails. I've also gone through a bunch of emails and Discord messages, and yeah, we have like around 82 entries we will be updating or adding to the public leaderboard very, very soon. If you still have questions on it, or if I've missed any of these emails or messages, please feel free to ping me. Again, I'll do my best to reply ASAP. Then we have, as you might have seen, we've also opened the forum again, the MIPS forum for Polygon participants. I see that some of you have actually also filled out that form. There's no need to, if you're already registered, no need to go through that form again. We do have more participants coming in, so that's nice. On phase 1.5, that's the one that's active. You guys just shared some updates on Nethermind and the TraceDB, so I believe everything is going well. And I'll maybe in the next couple of minutes, maybe Payne can talk about this. I know he's been testing it, but that's the phase that's currently active. On noses, the phase 2, meaning activating noses on mainnet, that is something that we're working on this week with the council to getting the last steps ready, and the tentative timeline at the moment is to update you all by Thursday or Friday at the latest, so that you can move over with phase 2, and that means setting up your indexer on mainnet and allocating to the subgraphs we will be migrating over starting this Friday as well. Polygon, so the last one, the phase 1 Notion page is also ready. at the moment, the only mission or the details of these missions are only about syncing up your archive node. The only reason that I haven't shared this yet is because you've all been busy with noses. So we want to make sure that everything is working okay, and then we can move on to mainnet. Regardless, I will share this Notion page within the next couple of days, if not today, maybe tomorrow, really. It's just so that you have some instructions on how you can get started to start syncing your archive node, and then we can all share some feedback and share some learnings on it, really. But that's the only mission that's going to be available for now. We won't be sending any traffic. We won't be deploying Polygon subgraphs on Girly. Nothing like that. It's just for you to get started, really, and for newcomers to also get a head start. And I guess that's it for now on MIPS. Yeah, I'm happy to answer questions if you folks have. Statman, yeah, you can. Yeah, I'm gonna share this Notion page, but yeah, all of you can already start syncing stuff. We've announced it. If you want to get ready, yeah, feel free to.
I can maybe provide some more details around Nethermind and the TraceDB stuff, Pedro.
Yeah, thanks, Perrin. That would be helpful. Yes.
All right, cool. So, short brief thing about like what's been happening in the last few days. So basically, we have a new Nethermind build. A few weeks ago, they released it. We tested it internally, and they released it for public. And it basically supposedly has TraceDB support with 115 gigabytes of TraceDB data besides the main archive data. I've just got to Chainhead with it today, and seems like, first of all, there were some problems. The graph node wasn't able to send any trace filter calls to the archive node, but then they fixed it. And so we have a new build today, which I've posted in Nethermind, in the Nethermind channel, for people to test. And I can confirm that it does work. I mean, the subgraph at least works, but the machine behavior and the resource usage is basically identical to when people weren't having any TraceDB at all. So it's like the TraceDB is there, but it's like the node itself doesn't really use the TraceDB, and it's still generating traces on the fly. Because I was seeing close to a gigabyte per second read speeds when syncing the trace filter subgraph. So if anyone has anything to add or to if you guys can provide more information or whatnot, I'd be very glad to relay it to the Nethermind team. But that's where we stand today. And it would be very nice to have this build before we actually get with get this build working, before we get Gnosis on mainnet, because I mean, I can easily see an attack vector here for someone with enough GRT to publish and signal hundreds of trace filter subgraphs. And yeah, they can basically burn a lot of the network inflation and indexer rewards basically by doing this, because like nobody will be able to get all of those subgraphs synced unless they have like an open Ethereum node, which none of us have, or they are willing to blow up literally their RPC nodes by trying to sync those. But it's like with one single subgraph, you get close to like your maximum throughput that your machine can do. Like, for example, literally 100% CPU usage and literally 100% disk IO. So yeah, that's basically it.
I was just going to kind of share a plus one, that most kind of professional operators of Polygon RPC services that do offer trace support are doing so with open Ethereum nodes, even though that has been deprecated. So yeah, we're in a strange spot with it. Sorry,
I'd like to
Polygon.
circle
I'm
back
talking about
on the
Nethermind.
idea that's this thing is
The moment the merge go through, the open Ethereum node is not viable anymore, right?
Yeah, that's true, but I understand that some of these providers maintain custom forks of Open Ethereum. So I don't know if they would intend to. Yeah, it's a good question.
Just picking up on this in the chat. Mark, I think you were trying to say something, but we couldn't hear you. So if you want to try again with the volume up, that'd be great. Or you could just type in the chat. It's up to you.
Yeah, let me try again. Do you hear me?
Yeah, but it's a bit low. I think a lot of people are coming in really low for me. I'm not sure if it's my side, but yeah, I can hear you, but you're very quiet.
Is it better now?
Oh yeah, much better, much better.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, just circling back on the what Payne was mentioning about the potential attack vector, and I'm not sure I'm in agreement with that. I mean, maybe that's something that needs to be tested, but I mean, it's not the first time that we have subgraphs that are extremely difficult to index, and it can take weeks, maybe sometime months to fully index, and it's never been considered as an attack on network. What we have here is, yeah, we have something that is extremely difficult with a standard Nethermind client. But I've been doing some tests here, and it looks like it's feasible. It's possible. I mean, I never seen a server working so hard to do so little, but it seems to be working. So yeah, it's bad. We need an improvement on Nethermind, but I don't think we can build an attack on the network using that. And maybe again on the idea of using this special trace DB branch. I don't know, Payne, do you have any visibility from the Nethermind plans in regards of merging this this branch eventually, and make it as part of a officially supported release?
I'm not sure when they want to merge it. Probably when we confirm that it works as intended, I guess.
Yeah, they've been waiting on us to tell them, hey, we've had a lot of people testing it, or yeah, I think that's the only blocker there really. They just need more feedback and people testing it. So do let us know how it goes. I'm also considering deploying a subgraph on Girly that requires trace, and we can send some test traffic and ask you folks to seek it and just see if everything's fine. I actually was trying to get it done this week, but we kind of delayed. We'll see how it goes.
Chris, I knew you would say that based on our previous discussions.
Yeah, I do think like the line kind of becomes blurry. But yeah, I think like any set of features that are like sufficiently kind of difficult to achieve can be abused this way. You know, it's effectively just some variation of like as the person who writes the subgraph, like I have some, either I have like a massive head start or I have some like way of pre-computing like some of what takes so long. It could be like cryptographically. It could be like you can pre-compute indices in the database, or but you can effectively either start 2 months before everybody else, or you can figure out some way of like bypassing the indexing process but recreate the same data. And in either instance, you can basically prevent anybody else from indexing the subgraph and submitting valid POIs for some time. So yeah, I mean, I think like any sufficiently like difficult subgraph, kind of has this property, so it's not black and white. But yeah, I do think like it's definitely worth thinking about, and like if I would agree that it would be ideal for this Nethermind client to be in a better state before it hits mainnet.
Yeah, but I don't think we should be withholding. I don't think we should be necessarily be withholding mainnet deployment for Gnosis until there's a stable official release of Nethermind. I don't think that would be reasonable. We should probably just go with what's available. If some people want to experiment with experimental branches of Nethermind, good for them. But we shouldn't be holding back the whole chain because of that.
I mean, there is actually two factors at play, right? That currently the Nethermind implementation is not good enough, but you can basically solve it by using the deprecated Open Ethereum. But Open Ethereum becomes not valid anymore once they decide to merge. So basically, the Gnosis team needs to either fix Nethermind or either postpone their merge plans. Either would work for trace support, even though it might not be ideal.
Yeah, we even though it's not really ideal and very controversial, we could probably also, at least through Studio or CLI, just tell people not to deploy subgraphs that rely on the trace filter API for the time being, knowing that there's no clients currently properly supporting it. I'm not too sure, but that's something we can discuss.
Well, you can still publish subgraphs even though not through Studio. Like if you want to spam the network with subgraphs, you can do it at the contract level. You don't need the Studio for that. So I'm quite sure if someone has malicious intent, they already know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Those would get flagged by the CO, right?
Well, if the subgraph availability oracle denies trace filter subgraphs from Gnosis, then yes and no, because they deny rewards to be minted, but they still accrue. So if you spam the network with enough subgraphs and signal, well, like even one of them, and signal it with like half the network worth of GRT, then you essentially cut the inflation in half because nobody would be minting those rewards anymore. So again, just to be clear, the denying subgraph rewards basically stops it from minting rewards, but they still accrue. It's like you basically get 0x0'd the moment you submit the POI, even with a valid POI.
And again, the current official Nethermind build works. It's just very, very, very slow, but it works.
The problem is not that it's very slow. The problem is that it's killing your literal hardware. Like if you put more than one or two subgraphs there, it will fucking blow up. Like seriously, it's that bad.
Yeah, but it's up to the indexers to spec their system to
You can't spec it enough. I have a 48 core 96 threads machine, and it's running at 100% CPU utilization and 3 gigabytes per second reads. Like, there's no limit
It's
to
incredible.
how bad it's
Incredible.
getting. Yeah.
But
It just maxes out everything.
Personally, I think that we should. I think particularly given that we have this pipeline of MIPS indexers that will be onboarding to mainnet at some point, I feel like we should, not because indexers aren't responsible for their own infrastructure or shouldn't, kind of be on the ball enough to be able to look after things, but I just think that that migration should be a reasonably good path. It shouldn't. You shouldn't have to check out some fork or some feature branch of the client in order to get the software to behave in the way that you would reasonably expect it to behave. Even if some indexers are capable of doing that, I think we want to provide a better experience for the participants that we're kind of directing through this program.
Okay, maybe a more theoretical question. Is it reasonable for every indexer to be able to index every single subgraph in existence? Is that a fair and reasonable expectation?
No, it's not, but I feel like you may have just erected a straw man. I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know, because it looks like we're trying to holding off everything. We're pausing the MIMS program basically because we want the most basic indexing setup to be able to index a subgraph that is very difficult to index.
Yeah, it's a complicated decision for sure. And I think there are other factors. Like, it would be interesting to know what proportion of subgraphs on the hosted service on Gnosis chain actually need traces. And of that proportion, how many are actually seeing substantial query volumes. So yeah, it's definitely not a kind of clear decision, but personally I would be in favor of I kind of just see JSON RPC and the blockchain node as a core dependency of an indexer. And if that dependency is not in a super good spot, I mean, you're right that we can't just sit around and wait forever. But I think it's worth asking the question of how close is it, or what? I wouldn't just blindly proceed. Because I wouldn't want to alienate indexers, because of this particular chain situation.
I think if the testnet portion of Gnosis is done sufficiently, but we are now need to wait basically for technical improvements that are out of our own control. Potentially, we could already start getting ready for the Polygon testnet portion while we wait to migrate Gnosis to mainnet. I tend to agree that the current state of the RPCs is not super great for Gnosis, and to have that as the first addition to our mainnet, I mean, this is a major milestone that we are making for our mainnet. If that goes not quite smooth at all, this is not a good look. This is not a good experience. So that's for me an extra reason to sort of to be very cautious of what we do and when we do. But it doesn't mean that MIPS entirely should stop. We can proceed with the next chain, and that looks to be Polygon. So we might as well get ready for Polygon while the technical improvements for Nethermind are being put into place.
I agree. It's two different discussions we are having. One is pausing the MIPS program as is, and the other is how we can decide on how to best support Gnosis on mainnet, knowing these current constraints. And on the first, the program definitely isn't stopped. We can move on with Polygon. Actually, I'm just going to post a Notion page for folks that don't know how to sync an archive node or want some guidance. On the Nethermind thing, yeah, I don't think we can come up with a discussion right now. To be honest, things are evolving so quickly with the Nethermind team. Let's see how we evolve. But I agree that we should be mindful of the security risks or attack vectors that are in place here, just because of this trace filter thing. So yeah, let's see how it goes in the following days. But Polygon is still on for sure.
What's the rough timeline for the Polygon part of the MIPS? Is that something we're going to start? Do we have to wait for January, or that's something that will begin before the end of the year?
I was trying to pause to see if Martin was on the call, see if he wanted to speak about timelines. But again, so phase one for Polygon is, I can say it's officially started. I'm going to share the Notion page. I'm going to share an email. But the only mission that's there is really to sync an archive node. There's not going to be test traffic, no subgraphs for you to allocate currently. So I'm not expecting to share these missions during next week as well, since we should all be focusing on Gnosis, really, and not supporting another chain on 𝗟𝗟, or just setting up your indexer on 𝗟𝗟. At the same time, we're trying to support one new chain on mainnet. Again, it's all about quality on mainnet, really. So I don't think we'll have more missions for Polygon other than just syncing an archive node, which is going to take some time anyway. And we also don't want to be busy during the holiday season, really. But again, no commitment whatsoever. Right now, that's how things are. When is the 30% being distributed? Oh, Vince, yeah, we'll talk about this in a separate email, really. I can't speak to that, but I know we have plans to talk about this really soon. And by this, I mean, for anyone that's listening, Vince is asking, when is the 30% being distributed to Bootstrap people to mainnet for chain transitions?
Maybe another general MIPS question. When we started the program, it was supposed to last 6 to 7 months. Has this timeline been revised?
Again, no Martin on the call. I'm deferring the hard questions to Martin. No changes at the moment to that plan, official changes. So that's still the latest timeline. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We can keep going with the MIPS related questions, seeing as that's a continuing conversation. But I also want to ask, at some point, we're getting to the end of the year, and it'd be nice to crowdsource some ideas for what people want to hear in terms of MIPS and IOH content going forward. Many of you who are OGs in the IOH community probably realized that we did a feedback session many IOHs ago, and that turned out to be really valuable in terms of informing the content going forward. And so it'd be nice to check in with all these new community members and its participants about what you guys are keen to hear about in terms of content going forward. So yeah, I'll let the conversation keep going, but I also want to just like throw that in there in case anyone's got any ideas of things that they would like to hear going forward. And of course, feel free to type in the chat as well as unmute your mic in terms of MIPS or content. I can see several people typing, so I'll see what comes of that. When holidays for MIPS? I'll defer that to you, Pedro. I don't know how to respond to that.
When holidays for MIPS? Yeah, I was going to make a joke that chains don't stop, but we did. Yeah,
Exactly.
go Matthew. Next is 24/7 job. Yeah, yeah, chains don't stop. So no, I'm kidding. Like we won't be sharing any missions or phases during the Christmas season or the holiday season. Let's say, since not everyone celebrates Christmas. So starting 22 for sure, there won't be anything. We won't be sharing anything from the 22nd onwards for sure. Some chains do stop. Yep. And I'm gonna stop there.
There's a question in here about the leaderboard, Pedro. So Vincent asks, did I miss an update about the leaderboard situation for those that were late submitting for the last form linking your identity to the testnet indexer?
I'm right reading it now. I'm not sure. So Vincent, we did update. We have like 80 new entries that we can now process, meaning that we had scored a bunch of people, but we didn't have the address, and we need the address attached to their email so that we can populate the publicly accessible leaderboard. So if you're one of those, the leaderboard will be updated tomorrow, and you'll see your entry. If that's not your question, let me know so I can help you. But yeah, just DM me if you need more info. I'm not so sure. Oh, okay, looks like that was it. Okay, cool. So for those that are still wondering why they can't find their address on the leaderboard, that's the only reason why. We have all the data, but the public website hasn't been updated yet.
Just to highlight a question that Amy asked in the chat, will the alchemy growth plan be enough for the Polygon RPC? I think not, but like I said in the chat, I'll let more knowledgeable people give a more comprehensive answer.
I'm not sure what the question is. I see Amy tagged me, but yeah, I don't know if.
Yeah, I mean, I just to add both, she's asking. So I'm assuming she's on the Polygon. The Alchemy growth plan, and she's asking if that's enough for the Polygon RPC. Look, the Polychain is it's a high throughput chain. I don't think so. Sorry, go ahead.
I can't speak to that really. I don't know. Neither can I recommend any external provider really. I understand the question now, but I can't really answer.
Well, the answer is simple. If you have like hundreds of thousands of dollars, then yeah, feel free. But otherwise, I would look into self-hosting.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars that you would like to burn.
Oh yeah, please send it to me. I can provide you free access if so.
Hopefully that answers your question, Amy.
I'm happy you guys jumped in and said what I probably shouldn't.
Just to highlight a comment that Chris made in the chat, you mentioned that generally speaking, self-hosting a node is cheaper than purchasing a third-party RPC, and that's generally true. I just want to highlight that. And yeah, thank you for asking that question. Like, it's important. I know we're joking around and stuff, but like, this is the place to ask these kind of questions. So thanks for asking. And if you need help or more advice on self-hosting, I couldn't think of a better place to ask those kind of questions. So, you have a bunch of really smart, super sharp OG indexes here to answer all of your super technical questions. So if you have any specific questions around that, feel free to ask. Amazing. Great to see everyone helping each other out in the chat. This is what this is for. So yeah, very gratifying to see that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is coming up to the top of the hour. So this conversation's been kind of a bit about MIPS Q&A, and so I'm assuming due to the silence and the little bit of chat in the comment section, most of the questions in relation to MIPS have been answered. If not, this is a final call before we wrap today's session. So if you have any further questions in relation to MIPS, or as I mentioned earlier, a request for content going forward, thank you, Paca, for your response in that regard. I read it, and we'll definitely do more of that in the future. But yeah, this is the final call, so please do chat in the chat box or unmute your mic if you so desire.
Is there any experimental Gnosis chain Aragon builds out there that I can try to poke around with or anything? Because I saw that those PRs being merged. I still somehow recall that we had like a link posted by someone mentioning Aragon and Gnosis chain. I just can't find it for I don't know. It was recent still. Yeah, I saw it. I just wonder if it's this one that I saw earlier. I'm not sure. Well, I guess I can put it to work, and I'll let you guys know how it goes. I'm very curious to get over this 𝗨𝘀𝗵𝗀 build bullshit, honestly. Even if this is full of bugs, I would rather have this than Nethermind at this point. Maybe it's just me. I mean, I always loved working with Aragon. Even before they were called Aragon, during mission control, we were on the cutting edge with 𝗨𝘀𝗵𝗀 running there since, I think, August or... Yeah, I think it was August or September when we first started syncing 𝗨𝘀𝗵𝗀, and then we got proper trace support in, and then, yeah. Man, I love this team. It was a true game changer.
Not to steer the conversation in a different direction, but I really liked the comment that Chris made, and I wanted to highlight it here, about potentially bringing on dApp developers that are using the decentralized network and asking them about their experience using it and their perspective. I personally, I think that'd be fun. I'd really enjoy that, and I think it'd be really informative for indexers to get a better understanding of the people that ultimately all of you are serving, right? Just to turn it back to you, Chris, do you have any specific questions that you would like to propose to those dApp developers, or is it more of a general conversation to understand their experience and what they're going through? Because, yeah, it'd be interesting to know.
I think just generally, that's definitely a perspective that I would like to understand. I think, it's, as an indexer, it's kind of quite nice that the network intermediates us from the end customer, and we don't have to actively do that kind of customer development work. But I do think that, speaking to the customer and understanding their experience would just, be beneficial for all of us. And I think the other thing, honestly, is just I think we have a really great community here, and I don't feel like there are that many connections at the moment between the indexer community and like the end kind of consumer community. And yeah, I think kind of like propagating some vibes both ways could be fun.
Let's propagate all those vibes. I love it. Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea, and I think we can definitely source those developers and get them into IOH/MIPS conversations. Oh, amazing! Thank you so much, Derek. I can see in the chat that you've offered to help there. And no worries, Chris. I like the phrasing of propagating the vibes. It's nice. It's nice. Very formal. I like it. Cool. Well, yeah, I would love to do that. I think that would be a great idea. So I'll put it down as a suggestion, and as well as the suggestion earlier for Packer, and see how we can implement that going forward. Because yeah, I think it'd be really good to hear that perspective, as you've mentioned. Cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take this opportunity to wrap today's conversation, unless somebody has a burning question, and in that case, please do interrupt me. But if not, it's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with everyone today. As always, I really enjoyed these conversations, and I am grateful to see that this venue is useful for people to have their questions answered and keep a pulse on what's going on, and also just connect with your ecosystem peers. So with that, thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, and we will see you same time next week for another edition of IOH/MIPS. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.